I got friends only wanna talk business. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I've been reading all the war, and I've been shutting down the stars. Cause when it rains and it pours, and I'm ready for some more.
And welcome to Put That Coffee Down, the freight sales show for closers. My name's Kevin Hill. I'm your host, as always, here at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on FreightWaves TV. So it's going to be a great show today. We have Paul from FreightCaviar. He's launching a new business. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about a lot about leads, collecting those leads, getting those that contact information and that research to where you can pick up the phone, you can shoot an email, you can contact as many people as possible as a freight broker. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about CRMs as well. But yeah, it really goes back to leads. It's 2023. It's time to get your book of business going straight. And part of that is just eliminating the time it takes to collect those names, get those leads in the door. So without further ado, let's bring on Paul right now from FreightCaviar, or as I call him, PBJ, because I can't pronounce his full name. But Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Kevin. Thanks for having me. I have a little bit of a cold, so you might be able to hear that through my through my voice. But besides that, I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing great too. I've been doing great. It's been an exciting 2023 for you so far, and I will let you take the reins and kind of announce what you're doing and then we'll talk about your backstory, and because there's a whole other question that I always like to examine when it comes to launching a business. But for right now, I'm just going to hand the reins to you and let you explain what you've been up to.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. So essentially right now we're about to launch ShipperCRM.com. ShipperCRM it's a CRM specifically designed for freight brokers. So something that we realized was that there wasn't, like when you use HubSpot or Salesforce for that matter, it's all generic. It's all designed for the generic consumer. Anyone could use it from any industry. And so it's like, how do we create a CRM that's specifically designed for freight brokers and trucking companies to connect with shippers, and also to have access to that information to be able to contact shippers directly. And so it's essentially taking the contact information for a shipper and providing you, educational content to be able to be confident when you're making that call. It's something that when I was a freight broker, I knew that I would use. So that's the problem that we're solving for. It's like, if you're a freight broker, if you're a trucking company, how do you, first of all, call a shipper, and how do you track that relationship? So it's an all-in-one tool for anyone that's trying to get more business and be educated and grow their book of business.
So starting from the pipeline, right, filling the funnel all the way into the close and the management of those contacts, just like a normal CRM. That's one of the things I always found as a freight broker, is especially on the leads aspect and going out different vendors. I use data.com a lot. I've used, of course, LinkedIn, pulling leads from there. You have Zoom Info, but those are all kind of cookie cutter, generic type of leads. So the structure in supply chain or transportation logistics, it could be any title sometimes, right? Especially once you get down into the small and medium businesses, or the SMBs as they call them. It could be anybody. Sure. It could be operations person. It could be the secretary for all really. And who really ships goods and who doesn't. That's kind of a very gray area whenever all you really have are names and numbers, or a company name. They sound like a shipper. They're classified in this industry, but I have no idea.
Yeah. And it's also very time consuming to be getting all that information.
Yes.
So you're searching LinkedIn, you're searching various sources. As we all know, it's possible to get at the current moment, but it's how do you make it easier, and how do you lower the cost so that you're saving time and that you're also contacting the correct person. So that's something that we're here to solve and help. And I like I said, I know that if I was a freight broker right now, I would be using this 100%. So when I'm like beta testing it and when we're improving it, it's good to have my feedback from being in the industry for almost 7 years and being connected to so many freight brokers that do this on a daily basis, to where we're getting the feedback necessary to build out a tool that will be very useful for thousands of people.
And ShipperCRM, that's the name of it. Has it launched yet officially?
Well, yeah. So you could go on right now. You can make an account. We're giving out 14-day free trials. My business partner just opened the floodgates yesterday, and right now it's only at the core version is available, and the core version is limited in its functionalities compared to the pro version that we're planning on launching right before TIA. However, it's still very powerful and very useful. So people could go on ShipperCRM.com right now, and they could start their free trial right now.
Yeah, I've checked it out. I think it's a wonderful tool because one of my pet peeves, and I've said it over the years here on Put That Coffee Down quite often, is there's just time wasted researching leads, right? Is going in and just finding someone to call. And then you have to find out, what they ship, And I think as a sales organization and a salesperson and as a sales organization, which freight brokers are, is that you want your salespeople to be on the phone, making calls, prospecting, talking to customers, having great conversations, in less time building a lead list. And I think that's kind of the status quo in a lot of freight brokerages, that you're responsible for building that lead list from scrap almost. And that can take 70% of your time. And I think if that can be automated in any way or made easier or condense that time, that it just helps your percentages of success.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's what we're here to solve for. We want to free up your time, and we want to give you the tools necessary to be able to close more business and to have more meaningful phone calls. Because at the end of the day, obviously you want to be contacting the right person, but this really is a numbers game because there's so many different shippers out there that they already have their designated providers, and you're going to have to make those 100 phone calls to potentially get one customer, or maybe none. But if you have the right quality leads and you have it all processed in place for you, so that you have your task list, you go on and you can start knocking off the list. And that's what we're doing right now. Is you go into ShipperCRM.com and you have a task list, and you could just mark done, check, done, and keep moving. And it's supposed to be designed to where you're not wasting time. Like you said, Kevin, that's exactly what we're trying to do.
I like that you said it's a numbers game, because oftentimes part of that numbers game, and you also said that a lot of shippers out there they already have someone providing transportation. You kind of have to catch them at the right time. The stars kind of have to align, that they have to have a pain point with their current provider. And the only way you are going to be there at the right time and the right place is by constantly contacting. That's being on the phone and not looking for the research, right? I mean, I think you probably got some clients that way as a freight broker. I know I did, just randomly calling somebody, and they were mad at whoever they're using at the time, and they're going to give the next person who walks through the door or gives them a call a shot. And sometimes I just ended up being that way.
Exactly. You really never know what a conversation could lead to. It's actually that's what makes it kind of exciting. If you're open to kind of just having, an adventure, let's say at work, or you could kind of put that, have that mental framework to where it's like each conversation could lead you down a path that you never expected to. You're also more excited and more motivated to make each phone call. And that's something that we also want to we want to educate people with the right tools to have the ability to have more meaningful conversations, but also to understand that you're going to have a lot of no's. As we all know in sales, there's a lot of no's, but all of a sudden, one day something's gonna click, and you might have a great great account, but you also might just be building a great relationship with someone that could continue for years to come. So definitely in sales, it's a numbers game, and you never know what one phone call could lead to.
You never know. You never know what anything can lead to, which is a good segue, because let's take a step back. And for those few people out there probably who've never heard of FreightCaviar or who haven't seen your memes, talk about your journey, right? Because I always think it's very interesting. This is a really interesting question. Is it harder to build the audience and build the sales and the marketing arm, or is it harder to build the product, right? Because building the product is really hard. But I think
Sure.
I think that the way you did it, and whether that was, it's not completely detailed and planned out, but I think it's very interesting to start with growing an audience and building a following, and then monetizing that by hearing that feedback, seeing what people want, and going out and creating that. I think that's really the way to do it.
Sure. So I never intended to monetize FreightCaviar when I started. It was literally all for fun. I had quit my job. I was running a freight brokerage, an outsourced operation Ukraine, for 3 years, and I quit that job. I was burnt out. I wanted to start my own brokerage, and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It's something that I've always wanted to do. And while just I had about a month, I just had knee surgery, and I wasn't really able to move around. I saw these other meme accounts on Instagram, and I'm like, after managing a team for over 3 years and understanding what goes on in the industry, I'm like, I'm just going to start making some memes. And one thing led to another. I ended up building up an audience, and the first sponsor that I had was Ryan Rogers from TextLocator reached out to me. And then once I had that, I'm like, this is pretty cool. Maybe I could actually turn this into a business. And then Tim Hyam from Ascend TMS, he became my second sponsor. And at that point, I'm like, I'm going to stop being a freight broker, and I'll see if I could just make a living off of this. And started the newsletter, started the podcast, and it just all kind of organically came together, where it wasn't something I set out to do, but it's something that I'm enjoying a lot, and it's been great. And since we have this audience now, it's what can we plug into the the audience, where a product that they would find useful and they could use on a daily basis. It could help them with sales, and that's something that I set out to do a few months ago. I got connected with my business partner, Christian, who's the CEO of ShipperCRM. He has a fascinating background. He started off with a company called Autobahn.ai. He was the founder and CEO of Autobahn.ai, which created they had a product that was creating sensors for trucks to be more safe on the road and to somewhat be automated. And it fell apart during COVID. He wasn't able to raise more money, but I found him at the right time. We met through Twitter, and then we ended up getting together with Tim and kind of forming this idea of ShipperCRM.com. But overall, it started from me just having fun on Instagram, and so I guess if there's any takeaways from this, it's if you create content that people find entertaining or educational, for that matter, and you're patient and consistent, you end up building up an audience that you could, eventually cater more products to and monetize it. I'm monetizing it now through sponsors, and ShipperCRM coming, will be monetizing it through having a product that's useful for others. But it's building an audience. I guess it's in this day and age, isn't that difficult as long as you're patient and consistent. That's literally the two things that create a successful formula on social media. So I think people realize that if you post consistently on LinkedIn, if you post consistently on other social media networks, eventually you'll have a following. And people, if you're organic, if you're creating content that people want, people will cater to it, and you'll be able to build a business from that.
You're exactly right, and it kind of goes back back to the accidental business almost, right? Is like,
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't do anything else. So you started, just playing around, and all of a sudden it grows. And you're able to build a tool that serves your audience with their feedback, right? So they have active
Mm-hmm.
participation in how it looks, how it feels, how it can integrate in. And it goes back to, now, if you just wanted to build a CRM tool, right? ShipperCRM or any other platform, without first doing FreightCaviar, how much more difficult would it be? Could it even be done, really? Or would you even do it? Would you even invest the time and money without like a target market that is ready to go out and be sold to? You'd have to create that from the ground up too, which I think is, to me, it's a very scary proposition.
Yeah, I honestly don't believe, without FreightCaviar, this would never come together. Because what was actually interesting, besides the fact that I met my business partner because of FreightCaviar, he liked one of my tweets on Twitter, and that's how we got connected. But he wasn't like so like all about creating a CRM, but he was like, Paul, post on Instagram. Back like in October, he's like, post on Instagram. We'll have this form that they could fill in if they're interested in being on the wait list, if they're interested in this product. And I ended up posting 2 Instagram stories, and we got over, I believe, 300 people to sign up on the wait list. And he was like, okay, this is interesting. Like, now I see people want it. Let's build the product. So just from that point of view, like, that it would have never come together without having that verification from our user base that like people actually want this. And then, secondly, right now, we're having people sign up for the demo by themselves. If they want to sign up for a demo, they could go to my LinkedIn page, and there's a button that says sign up for a ShipperCRM demo. We don't do any outbound reach, which is unbelievable. Which is obviously amazing for us. We have a few demos set up for today and this week, and that was all just from people going on my LinkedIn profile and clicking the button to set up a ShipperCRM demo. So it makes life a lot easier. Definitely knowing that I would have to have a big marketing spend, like a lot of money just from investors or saved up by myself to invest in the marketing side. And then, I guess people, since they're already used to FreightCaviar and they've built somewhat of a kind of emotional feeling attachment to it, some have, when they see it, they trust it more. They're like, oh, this is a FreightCaviar product. Okay, like I'm subscribed to the newsletter. I listen to podcasts. I see his memes. Okay, like this is cool. It's kind of like the. I don't want to like build up myself like to compare myself to like other like big influencers, but like just for example, Logan Paul came out with that I forgot what it's called. He came out with that drink, and it seems to be selling out everywhere in stores just because he put his name on it. If someone else randomly decided to create that, no one would be buying it at stores and wouldn't be selling out.
It's the biggest part of the initial sell, right? And that's why freight brokerage is so hard, and that differentiation, right? How do you differentiate yourself? You're making cold calls, whether you're selling a TMS or freight services or what have you, or drinks, right? It's like, who are you? Who are you? What does this do? And you have to build up that trust. You've done that by building that audience and providing the content. There's a high level of trust of that people have an emotional attachment. People know who you are, and it becomes easier to get your foot in the door at least. Now, the product has to be proven, right? The product has to work. It has to do all these other things. But the hardest part of the sell, I think, really is just getting in the door. Just having that name recognition, that credibility built. That's where inbound leads come from. So my advice, I think your advice would be the same too, for anyone out there who wants to start a business someday, but they don't really have the right idea, or they don't have the idea yet, right? They're searching for that idea, is to go out and just create content, build a name for yourself, get out there. So once you do, you have that groundwork to go out and make sales too, because that it's more difficult than than I think a lot of people think. And it still scares me to go out and I invest a lot of money and then go out and try to sell it. I'm always trying to sell something before I even make it.
Yeah, definitely. And to your point, Kevin, I know like people sometimes don't want to post on LinkedIn that often, or they're maybe worried that, what others might think of them. I came into the industry really not caring what people think of me, in the sense of like, I started making freight memes. So I never really took myself that seriously. And I think people appreciated that because, especially on LinkedIn, people tend to be very professional and serious. And that's good. I think if you have to be yourself, and people know if you're yourself or not. And if you're able to be yourself and you're able to create content regularly, people will notice it, and you're gonna have that ability to that doors will open up to you. People will reach out to you. I honestly, even for like the FreightCaviar side of doing sponsors, like I don't do like cold outreach. All my sponsors, for the most part, like more or less came to me, or we were connected through a mutual connection, but it wasn't like me like doing cold outreach. So if you want to differentiate yourself as a freight broker, definitely begin posting content and be yourself. Talk about your experiences, and you see it quite often these days on LinkedIn, and people share those experiences. And I know from talking to a lot of them that it works. Like they're able to close leads with shippers. Shippers realize or notice them on LinkedIn because shippers are active on LinkedIn. And if you're able to share content that they enjoy, or just be yourself, someone's going to connect with you, and eventually that's going to lead to a sale. And as we all know, sales is all about relationships, and you don't want to be really salesy. You want to have be comfortable with yourself, and you have others who like that work with you. At the end of the day, you want to work with people that you enjoy working with. There's definitely a lot of pros when it comes to just posting content on LinkedIn or other social media channels.
Yeah, you want to be a consultant. You do consultative sales and not salesy sales, right? And consultants are experts. Consultants post. Consultants, talk in a normal fashion with their prospects, and not in crazy objection closes and boilerplate templates in a lot of ways. So it makes a lot of sense. It's interesting how you start out and kind of how you finish, or that journey. And again, I would just say you're exactly right. Just go out and be yourself. You have to be yourself, and don't worry about what other people say, because if you want to start a business, then you have to get a thick skin, I think.
Yeah, a thick skin. And at the end of the day, you need sales to have a business. Without sales, your business is nothing. And, I always worked on the carrier sales side of things. So, people don't really, like, it is technically sales, but you're essentially just giving a trucking company, a freight shipment. It's a little bit different than customer sales. I did some customer sales on the freight broker side. But, when I started doing FreightCaviar, I had full time. I had to, lock in sponsors. I need to make sure that I have revenue coming in each month to pay my contractors. And you learn a lot, and you could read a lot of sales books, but until you just start doing it yourself and seeing what works and what doesn't, I guess that's the only way to really learn the sales game. And it's put yourself out there. Be consistent, be patient. People are always looking for that quick buck. And I don't recommend that. Look at the long term, try to find partners that you could secure revenue in for a longer period of time, while also building a relationship and making sure that you have a lot of contact with each customer, making sure that you get to know them, you spend some time with them, you go out, grab some drinks. You actually build a relationship, and that's the fulfilling part about it. Because I've realized that, I've built a lot of relationships here with my sponsors that, they're long lasting relationships, and it's been enjoyable. And it's something that if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to get used to it. There's no other way around it besides just doing it, but making sure you're patient and committed.
Patience, commitment is it's a long game, especially when it's entrepreneurship. There's no quick bucks. Certainly, Paul, thanks for joining us for Put That Coffee Down today, and it's ShipperCRM.com, so you can go there and sign up for a free 14-day trial and test it out. But again, thank you for
having
stopping
me,
by.
Kevin. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
That was Paul from FreightCaviar talking about his new product that he is coming out with his business partners at ShipperCRM.com. You can go there and test that out. But that wraps it up for this Put That Coffee Down here on FreightWaves TV. See you next week.
I got friends only want to talk business. I got expensive because winning's expensive. I got expensive because winning's expensive. I've been reading all the work. And I've been shutting down the stars.